views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Art Time with BXArtsFactory. My name is Laura Alvarez and I am very excited to be partnering with BronxNet to bring you this episode. Today we will learn a little bit about myself and how I became an artist, and after that we will create potato stamps and your own pattern. I studied fine arts between Valencia, my hometown, and Canterbury and the Kent Institute of Art and Design with an Erasmus exchange. I was really always into art, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to study. I was between languages and philosophy or history or architecture when I learned that there was a lot of math, then I'm like, then no. But I finally went for fine arts and I just liked art. And one time I was selecting the different subjects for the year. I made a mistake. I chose graphic design without knowing that was something that you could study. And I really got hooked on it, and I took all the subjects, all the credits I could in graphic design. And after I finished my degree, I also took a 300-hour, like a mini diploma on graphic design. And from then, I always worked on graphic design, and then later on here on illustration and more art like I studied. So I always was artistic. I wasn't really sure what to be an artist was, but I spent hours creating the top of the homework assignments and then doing the homework like 2 minutes, because what I like to do is that all the lettering, and I will draw all those things. So I was always artistic, and then I took some drawing classes before going into college. There wasn't such thing as specialized high schools in Spain when I was growing up, so everybody had to study the same thing. There was no art or nothing like that. But I was lucky enough that my mom and my dad agreed for me to go to drawing classes, and that helped me getting into a college education in arts. So I became an artist because I guess it's the only thing I know how to do. I know how to do a lot of things, and I'm very curious about a lot of other stuff that is not basically like painting or graphic design or illustration, but at the same time, I always come back to that, and I use that art into all aspects of my life, in my activism, or for myself, for my problems, to process my own ideas. That's how I use art for. So even if I didn't want to be an artist, I don't think I had another choice. Art is my life. I arrived in New York in 2009, and I came straight to the Bronx to live. It was my first time ever in New York or the Bronx or like anywhere close by. So I don't know why, but the Bronx really like got to me, and I felt like this was my second home. And I've always been interested in their communities and the different aspects of the community, the Bronx community, how many cultures there are in the same place, and how they live together and how they learn from each other. So my work basically has been always related to the Bronx and me as an artist, and how, because of my artwork, is always how I process my surroundings through art. I guess like the community and the art and the Bronx kind of got together, and I met really interesting people in this borough, and I was lucky enough to be able to start a nonprofit, BXArtsFactory, with other Bronxites that, as me, they're immigrants, and it just became my home. My artwork is very diverse. It's like I am always interested in different things. I can't focus just in one, so that's how my artwork reflects myself that way. I think I like to learn about a lot of techniques. I do murals or visual art, acrylic, printmaking, illustration, you name it, because I think that I like to choose whatever technique at that moment I feel I want to use it. With each technique, you kind of are able to express yourself in a different way. So I like to explore different ones. And about the themes that I touch, I use a lot of references to nature because I believe like nature deserves better than we do to her. And so ecology is one of them, womanhood. I like to mix science with art, even though I'm not a scientist, but I'm very interested in it. So I like genetics and all those like cell things that we don't really see, but you can see through a microscope or through all those techniques that they have to see what's inside us. And all those processes for me are very important. I also like to explore the community and how the community sees themselves. Lately, I've been doing a lot of portraits, not portraits, but a lot of illustrations of how I see the communities I live in. And for me, like race and all the things happening around us, they have a lot of saying in what I do. So I think my work always shifts when things happen and I need to process whatever is going on, then I change the subject. Whenever I do murals or other projects that are not just for myself, I like to also to involve the community, and I like to do workshops and community engagement to see and to learn more about them and what they think that their walls should say. So it's like a communication, like a conversation between the community and the artist that becomes a mural. So I think one of the challenges, the biggest challenges for Bronx artists is always finding a space to showcase your work, and also to have people that live in other boroughs to come to the Bronx and see your work in the Bronx. It's much easier for you to go to Brooklyn and get people going to Brooklyn or Manhattan and see your work there than having them coming to the Bronx for whatever stigma the Bronx has. So a few years back, with some other friends, we were complaining because we couldn't find a space, and that's how BXArtsFactory was born, because of the need from artists to get spaces in the Bronx to be able to use them and engage with the community and have a showcase space here. And since then, I've been the vice president and COO, and also coordinate mostly all the programming for BXArtsFactory. And lately, we've been doing it virtually, like everybody else, but I really love when we can engage with the community as we do, bringing the art outside to the street and the artists to the community and engage together. I think art is important because it gives you a break from your life. And artists, they help you take that break and kind of breathe out of your everyday job and your problems and everything else. And for us, I believe everybody is an artist, and it's just like you have to see what art form you're interested in and then just like go for it. It can be dancing or acting or poetry or whatever it is. It's just like something that you have to work every day on. And once you get to know your potential, that's when you can really flourish as an artist and create and just help with the art in that process of everyday life and getting to be a better person and understanding yourself better. And I think artists, when they get to that point that they really understand themselves and they can help others in that process too. So it's important. I think for years and years, we artists have led the the critical thinking, and they've been like way ahead of the whole society. Like when abstract painters started, everybody hated it and they couldn't even like think of what was that. But then a couple of generations after, we are all wearing patterns that Mondrian created or Kandinsky could have done, because we assimilate that into our society. Slowly, slower than artists, but we do. So I think it's very important to move the society forward and to talk about a lot of issues that our communities go through, to use art as that process of that conversation. For the future, I would like to focus only in my artistic life and practice. For now, I'm still working a 9-to-5 job every day, and I'm working towards that step of being able to not have that job. But after COVID hit, I had a 5-year plan. That 5-year plan became like a back to square one. So at some point it will happen, but I want to focus more on my illustration and doing children's illustration and using the children's books to start conversations also, because I think it's important, and learn about history and the past and how we can move forward to the future. And I would love to continue painting and doing murals. I really miss working with people one-on-one and creating that space where they can be themselves and create, and that exchange of, I learn as much as they learn from those classes and those workshops. So I really miss it. And I just hope to be able to create and have spaces like this. Like Shishama gave me the opportunity to have a space in here in one of their studio spaces and create, and also be part of the community whenever we're able to, and teach twice a month. So I hope this can be the future and even more art. Welcome back, and now we are going to learn how to make a potato stamp, and we're going to use it to create your own pattern. Usually in my work, I use a lot of repetition. I love that way of communicating. It's part of graphic design and like kind of a tiling kind of feel. So that's what we're gonna do today. For today's activity, we want to use whatever you have home is fine, but I am going to be using acrylic paint, just regular acrylic paint, or you can use ink pads. These ink pads are very cheap, like Michael's kind of stuff, like arts and craft. You're gonna need a knife, like one of the paring knives, the small ones, and be careful using it with your adult supervision. And I like to use potatoes, peppers, celery, whatever you have home that you can carve or that you can make a shape out of it, that works. Even a carrot. Carrots are a little tougher, so that's why I like potatoes, but it's up to you. Okay, you want to get some vegetables. I like potatoes because they're easy to carve, but we are going to use also other types of vegetables that have other shapes. And the first thing, we're going to cut the potato in half. And you want to think of maybe, what am I going to do? Lately, what I've been doing a lot in my work is X's and Y's. And the X's and Y's are basically the genoma, you know that XX should be a woman and XY is a man, like genetically speaking, but everybody has a different preference once they grow up. So in this one, I'm gonna make an X, and if you're going to do it home, you want to make sure that you are calling some adult to use a knife with you, because I don't want any issues. Anybody cutting themselves? Okay, kind of look like an X, kind of. And what else am I gonna do? I wanna do a circle, because this potato is very circular shape. So let's see. Sometimes just have to be careful. Okay, so I'm gonna try to take the center. Ah! Okay, kind of a circle. I will cut the pepper in half, and we can use both sides. And the celery, I like that half moon kind of shape. Okay, once you have carved anything you want, any shapes you want, the moon, a heart, whatever you can think of, you are going to get either the ink pad or paint, and you're gonna just dip it. I'm gonna try see if this works. And I am going to start. It didn't quite work. Let me see if the black works better. Press, and it kind of works. Okay. And I'm gonna move on, and I'm gonna start making a pattern. A pattern consists in a repetition of the same thing. So if I'm making this X, I'm gonna go all the way to the end of the paper. Okay. And now I'm going to choose a different shape. And maybe what I'm going to do is to use paint instead of using the ink pad. So I'm going to dip my potato on the paint. Make sure you don't have too much, because if it's too much, it's going to ruin your painting. And now I'm going to decide how I'm going to connect both shapes. I think I want to make it on top. Yes, and I'm gonna dip again, and it will be the next two X's, and the next two X's. Ah! Okay. Sorry. And the next two X's. Okay, let's leave the potato, and now I'm going to use maybe the pepper, and I'm going to use some yellow so it has contrast, okay? And the pepper has its own shape. So let me see if I can maybe use it inside. Yes. Okay. And now we still have one more shape, is the celery. And the celery, I'm gonna try to use it in between the X's. And here. Okay, we have one pattern. Now with the same items that we have in here, we can make a completely different pattern. And that's the beauty of just like shapes, that you can use them in many different ways. Let's see. Let's turn the paper. And now, let me see. Now I want to use the first potato that we use with the X and the black. I'm going to use it with the yellow. So let's do this, and let's use it in a different way. Now with the pink potato, that is a circle, let's see how we're gonna use this here, in between the four. And maybe we can overlap and create like a little chain on top of them. Okay, so the purpose of doing this kind of repetition is that your mind starts like going into a meditative state. So when you're doing a repetition that you know already what repetition is, your brain goes in like auto mode and you can like just let go into whatever you're thinking and just do the same thing over and over again. And that will give you like some kind of peace into the feeling that you're, whatever you're doing. Let's see if this works. Let's do one more before we put everything away. I'm gonna take the yellow potato. And remember that you can use, I use acrylic paint, but you can use tempera paint or whatever you have home, you can use it. Just make sure that you don't put too much so it doesn't get too crowded with the paint. Maybe now I can use it in different ways. I'm gonna do vertical and then horizontal. And remember, patterns are a series of the repetition of things. So if I did vertical and then horizontal, I'm gonna go vertical again, and then horizontal. And we don't really, it doesn't really matter if there's empty spaces inside, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's our piece of art, and it doesn't matter if we like it. That's all that matters. Let's go now. Here and here. I need some more paint. Okay, I cover my whole page with the yellow. Now, let's use the pink. And let's think, how do we want to use the pink? There's so many ways you can use like patterns, and it's just like about a committing. So you think about it, you figure out where you want to put your stamp, and then you just go for it. You can't change your mind once you put your first stamp. So just keep doing whatever you do first, okay? Let's go. And 4. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna use the black. Oy. Okay. And should we use one more? Maybe. Why not? A little bit of blue. Okay, I think we're done for today. Always remember to sign your artwork when you're done. That's basic rules for an artist. And just let it dry and it will be ready to hang. Thank you for joining us today in another episode of Art Time with BXArtsFactory. I hope you really enjoy our activity and I hope that you can join us again with BronxNet TV.